Welcome to Boost Your EV IQ, a showcase of the EV value chain funding opportunities and industry supports in Durham Region, Ontario, and Canada. My name is Dan Ruby, and I'm the Manager of Business Development and Investment at Invest Durham, which is the Economic Development Department for the Regional Municipality of Durham. We'll begin with a land acknowledgement. Durham Region is situated on the traditional lands of the First Peoples of the Mississauga-Scugog Island First Nation. These lands are covered under the Williams Treaties and rest within the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the Indigenous people who care for, and through the treaty process, share the lands on which we live, learn, teach, and prosper today. I'd like to begin with inviting Don Lavisa, President of Durham College, to bring welcome remarks to everyone here at Durham College's Corporate Training Immersive Hub, and to everyone attending nationally, streaming virtually.
Thank you, Dan, and good morning. And as Dan said, welcome to the Corporate Training Immersive Hub. And thank you to Invest Durham and Dan Ruby for hosting the event at Durham College. You know, a few little fun facts for you. So next week, we're going to have a grand opening for a new Trades Innovation Center called Proto. Within there are our new EV labs and innovation centers to teach technicians how to work on electric vehicles. You know, interesting that Durham College made a commitment to EVs a long time ago, far before this event. And with the Durham region, we launched the very first EV charging stations in the Durham region in 2009. Another fun fact, in 2009, we purchased the very first Chevy Volt that came to Canada, and now our auto shop students have it in their labs to learn from it. And of course, we all know that EV technology has come a long way since 2009, and we're proud to be part of that journey with Oven and all the partners here today. It's a real joy for us. You know, these partners continue to build on the importance and the reputation of the Durham region's role in the auto and the energy sector. Two sectors that are very, very important to our corporate training, and they play a big role in both sectors as well. It's a hidden gem in Durham College, our CTS. Last year, we engaged more than 50,000 trainers across Canada, which makes us one of the largest auto sector training organizations in Canada, and we work coast to coast. So, you're sitting here, you're watching us on streaming, and you're in the CTS Immersive Hub, a center that connects human training to digital immersion and simulation environments. And does it get any cooler than that? So a big welcome to Durham College. Welcome to all of our partners and guests. And together, we're leading the way. Enjoy the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don, for making this amazing, wonderful facility available for us for this event here today. I'd like to ask you all, first off, to put your phones on silent, if you would. There's a lot of technology in the studio here, and they've got their hands full as it is, so if you wouldn't mind just shutting it off. I'd also like you to hold any questions. We're going to have a series of presentations as we run through the day. We're going to hold questions to the very end. For those of you that are viewing online, please type your questions. There's a Q&A button in the Zoom link. Please type your questions using the Q&A button, and we'll address as many of the questions as possible at the end. So as mentioned at the start, today we'll walk you through some amazing opportunities to get on board the EV revolution. With the major funding announcements in Ontario's electric vehicle supply chain that I'm sure you've all heard of recently, there's exciting and immediate opportunities for business growth, for innovation and collaboration in Durham Region, Ontario, and Canada. We've got a full morning scheduled to showcase some of these industry supports that are right here in Durham Region. As mentioned, I'm Dan Ruby, and I head up the investment attraction activities for Invest Durham. I'd like to recognize here with me today as a team member and business development specialist, Ivan Chung. If you could put up your hand. Welcome, Ivan. I'd also like to recognize Durham Regional staff, Brian Bridgman, Commissioner of Planning and Economic Development, is here with us today. And Lindsay Bager from Government and Community Relations is here as well. Welcome, Lindsay. So, my team's work involves attracting investment in Durham Region. And our purpose is to generate high-quality paying jobs and propel Durham's economy forward. Our primary target in this work is international companies looking to establish North American headquarters. And when you're working internationally, the first thing you need to sell is Canada. And I'm sure I won't have many detractors both in the audience or in the room today when I say this, but we are all obviously very blessed to live work in Canada. At over 2.2 trillion US dollars, Canada ranks as the 8th richest country on the planet in terms of its economy size. Now, ranking in the top 10, GDP is super impressive. But what's even more impressive about that is Canada's relatively low population compared to other countries of similar wealth. Canada's population is around 39 million, making it the 37th most populated country in the world. This means that Canada represents about 0.5% of all humans on Earth. Canada ranks as the country with the 4th most abundance of natural resources on the planet, and we're the world's 2nd largest geography. I'm going to give you a little interesting tidbit. Lakes. You would all agree that the US is a pretty big country, right? It's fairly comparable to Canada in terms of its land size. The US has over 100,000 lakes. Russia, which is by far the world's largest country, has around 200,000 lakes. Canada wipes the floor with the rest of the world. We have an estimated 879,000 lakes in total. Canada has actually more lakes than the rest of the world combined. In Canada, mining is king in Canada. Of course, we border the US, the world's largest economy. Many of the US states, actually, their largest trading partner is Canada. We also benefit from not having to rebuild our infrastructure like some of our more unfortunate countries around the world, like England and Germany and Japan. We are the most educated country globally. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD, compares the percentage of each country's residents aged between 25 and 64 who have completed some form of post-secondary education. Canada has over 56% of adults meeting the criteria. Japan and Israel are 2nd and 3rd with around 51%. So the point here is that we're very blessed to be in Canada, and we have a tremendous capacity to grow, and our economy is doing wonderfully. And so the future for Canada is extremely bright, and it's sort of an easy sell. So we start with Canada, and then we acknowledge that Ontario is Canada's economic engine. And I won't get into listing a bunch of Ontario stats. I'll leave that to John George, my past colleague at Oven. He'll be speaking a little later. And then we recognize that Toronto is Ontario's economic engine, and Durham Region is part of the GTA, which is the strongest economic metropolitan area in Canada. Durham Region comprises 8 local municipalities, with 5 located along the lakeshore: Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, Oshawa, and Clarington. And we've got colleagues from all 5 of these municipalities joining us here today, and thank you for coming. And the 3 remaining municipalities, Uxbridge, Brock, and Scugog, are situated in the north. So to summarize, Durham Region has strong locational advantages. We have access to 135 million people within a day's drive of the region, including major US cities like Chicago, Washington, New York, and Boston. Companies in Durham Region also have a solid local economic base with around 7 million people in the GTA. Durham is one of the fastest growing regions in Canada. It's seen significant infrastructure investment, and yet it still has the lowest real estate prices in the GTA. We're also home to the top 5 fastest growing centers for tech talent in Canada. Unlike other parts of the GTA, Durham still has comparable affordability and availability of land, all the while being blessed with 350 kilometers of nature trails, 551 parks, 14 beaches, 3 lakes, 2 yacht clubs, and 7 marinas. So, to the subject at hand. Last year, Durham launched its economic development strategy, which looks out about 30 years into the future. Durham's economy is diverse. The sectors on this slide are Durham Region's priorities: applied digital tech, future energy, arts, culture, and creative, next generation mobility, and agri-food. Applied digital technology includes data analytics, applied research in AI, cybersecurity, automation, gaming, and health technologies. My colleagues from Ontario Tech and from Durham College will be speaking more on this shortly. The arts, culture, and creative sector has always existed in Durham, but has now become a priority sector for us and continues to grow as an important part of Ontario's multi-billion-dollar industry. Our agri-food sector includes biomaterials, food processing, and upcoming indoor and vertical farming, and FGF Brands will be creating a new headquarters and innovation technology hub in the region. But what we're here to focus on today is two globally relevant converging sectors, our next generation mobility sector and our future energy sector. Our priority in Durham Region is to grow Durham Region as a favorable spot for the development of connected, autonomous, shared, and electric technologies in advanced mobility. In our energy sector, Durham Region is already a test bed for technologies of the future, and organizations are innovating on various fronts. Some examples, there's a microgrid and innovation park at Ontario Tech University for research, testing, and training of engineers on microgrid concepts. Ontario Tech in Durham Region was a major component of Project Arrow. I don't see Colin here. He did register. Unfortunately, it looks like he hasn't made it. Colin Dillon from the APMA was to join us today. Anyway, Project Arrow is the first all-Canadian electric and autonomous vehicle made at Ontario Tech University, and it was showcased at the Durham booth at Collision recently. Durham College has a geothermal energy field that is used to fuel the college's building needs. Ontario Tech is a leading academic contributor on research on hydrogen and clean energy. The town of Whitby played host to its first of its kind autonomous shuttle project that was integrated into the transit system. Not too many regions or municipalities have done that. The city of Oshawa is also home to OPG's new headquarters, and this will bring 2,000 highly skilled jobs to Oshawa. Durham Region's energy sector is a significant player in Ontario and Canada's innovation ecosystem. The region produces over 30% of Ontario's electricity and has a strong cluster of over 250 companies, including OPG, SNC-Lavalin, AECOM, and many, many more. 10,000 energy sector professionals are employed in the region. The number is expected to rise significantly with the refurbishment of OPG's Pickering nuclear power plant. In the image is a rendering, a rendering of the first on-grid small modular reactor in Darlington. With the increasing demands on energy generation, largely due to the electrification of transportation, this technology is expected to be exported around the globe and lead Canada's re-emergence in the nuclear sector. At the region, we have an SMR action plan to support our region's commitment to clean and reliable energy generation. Durham Region has been a center of manufacturing excellence in Canada in the automotive, aerospace, and automation spaces. Durham's manufacturing sector includes a workforce of around 18,000 people. It includes the headquarters of GM Canada. They employ about 2,600 people, and they're investing even more to increase its vehicle production capacity. GM also has launched a vehicle testing track that's going to be used for testing of its advanced mobility technologies. Durham is one of the regional technology development sites of Oven. I won't get into too many details. Sherry Coburn and John George will cover those shortly. So the Durham RTDS, I will say this, the Durham RTDS is one of the most active sites and for pilots and demonstrations. And I'll take a moment to share a personal story for a moment. I'm not quite a year in this role at Durham Region. For the past 7 years, I worked for Ontario Center of Innovation as the sector manager for Oven. John has stepped into my shoes wonderfully. But one of the reasons that I came to Durham Region is when I was in John's role, we were funding innovative case-related technologies, connected, autonomous, shared, and electric technologies. And for companies to get the funding, and I won't get into the details, John will later, you needed what we called a primary partner. And when you're talking about intelligent transportation systems, oftentimes that primary partner is the municipality because they own the roads. So In Ontario, a lot of municipalities did projects. Toronto did a project, Ottawa did a project. A little town called Innisfil, which is just south of Barrie, they did 2. Durham Region did 6 projects. So they blew the rest of Ontario out of the water, and that told me that this was a very innovative place with a very innovative mindset. Okay, so that's partly why I came. I found that mindset to be very attractive. The region continues this work through a challenge statement model, which will be discussed later. And we have incredible assets in Durham that support mobility research and development. And the picture you see here is the ACE Climatic Wind Tunnel at Ontario Tech in Durham Region. I won't get into the details of how amazing that facility is. Jennifer Alsop is here, and she'll cover them shortly. But I will say that ACE is now hydrogen capable, which allows fuel cell development. Durham Region has an excellent pool of talent in its post-secondaries and the existing workforce. Durham has access to over 400,000 students across the GTA, and our post-secondaries in Durham collectively see about 30,000 annual students. Our region has seen growth of 40% in tech talent over the last 5 years, and that's in large part thanks to the hard work of the folks in these post-secondaries. The teams and the universities and the colleges here truly are incredible and remarkable. Ontario Tech is ranked #1 among all Canadian undergraduate universities in cross-sector research, most notably on topics such as clean energy and advanced mobility. In mobility, Ontario Tech is home to Canada's only accredited automotive engineering program. It's also a leading research university in nuclear energy, renewable energy, and energy storage technologies. Durham College is one of Canada's top 50 research colleges. They're pioneering the application of AI and offer an honors bachelor's program in AI. And they also work with companies to develop solutions for their business problems using AI. Durham College also plays a leading role in the energy sector. It boasts a state-of-the-art energy innovation center and geothermal field, one of the largest geothermal wells in North America. Trent University has been ranked high in Canada as well. Their campus in Durham offers programming and arts and science degrees, post-secondary certificates, and master's programs. And lastly, Queen's University has a site in Durham Region for their development of family medicine that provides academic, community, and clinical experience to the resident healthcare practitioners. So, to sum up, we have a rich business history leading automotive industry transformation and energy innovation. Many business support organizations are working collaboratively, as can be seen on this slide, and several of these will be speaking here today. Over 100 years ago, the first car company in Canada grew out of a carriage company right here in Durham, McLaughlin Carriages, and that became GM Canada. Innovation is in our DNA. OPG in Durham powers a significant portion of the energy demands in Ontario, and with the electrification of transportation, our grid capacity will need to double or even triple by 2050. Durham Region is already, and has been for some time, the clean energy capital of Canada. With the convergence of next generation mobility and future energy, we in Durham find ourselves at the nexus of these two convergent sectors. And we are now currently experiencing a once-in-a-generational opportunity as an emerging global leader, an electron valley, if you will. Thank you for your time and attention. So it's now my pleasure to introduce Andrew Skuse from Durham College. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, Dan. Excellent information. There's excitement happening in this region, and you and your team are bringing an excellent message, and we're happy to be a part of that today. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Durham College Corporate Training Services Creative Hub. Good morning to those that are joining us online today. Calvin, how many do we have? Or Miguel, how many do we have online with us right now? Take a quick look there. 61 people. So we've got an excellent group here with us this morning. We've got 61 online with us. We're so happy to have you and join us as we talk about EVs and the great funding initiatives that we're going to learn about and the supports that the organizations that are here today are here to provide. My name is Andrew Skuse, and I am the lead for our corporate training automotive business solutions here at Durham College. I want to start things off by sharing a piece of research from a KPMG study in 2022. Take a look at that. 71% of Canadians would consider buying an electric vehicle for their next new vehicle purchase. Now, the study also reveals that those same consumers will only consider those vehicles if they can get a minimum of 400 kilometers of range out of those vehicles. So that's an interesting statistic. But in order for us to actually convert those into real buyers, organizations like Durham College have a job to do to educate the market to make sure that that actually converts. There's a lot of education that actually has to happen to support that change. But we know that EVs and hybrid vehicles, they're not new. And our team in corporate training services has actually been developing programming on these vehicles since about 2007. So we've got some experience in there. I want to start things off and have a little bit of fun. Does anybody know in the audience here, and I'm actually going to ask our audience at home, put your hand up if you know what this vehicle is. Does anybody know? How many hands do we have up, Miguel, in our virtual audience? Does anybody know what that vehicle is? Nobody knows what that vehicle is. I saw a hand. Do we have a hand? Okay, do you know what the name was? Do you know what the name was? Okay, you're on the spot, but it was the GM EV1, and it was released in 1996. But sir, for being the very first person to interact today, I'm the one who actually gets to give away stuff. So I have that pleasure, okay? So we have a few of these, and for the folks online, I'm sorry. We can just smile and say thank you if you tried to answer it and yell it out when you're at home or at the cottage or in the office or sitting at the kitchen table with the kids. But we have a little gift. So I will open it up. So just a corporate training services mug, a thing of golf balls, and a little Tim's card for our first winner today. Actually, let me go back to this one. I pulled on this vehicle for a reason, though. Obviously, we're going to have some fun. I am going to call, actually, Tim up to the mic to tell us a little bit about this vehicle and why it's relevant today. Tim?
My name is Tim Askew. I manage the retail and fleet training accounts for General Motors Canada with Durham College Corporate Training Services. So a little hello, welcome, surprise. So EV1, not everybody knew the name, but it generally has a connotation. I feel like it's a can of worms. Thank you for throwing this on me, Andrew. Anyone know what the can of worms might be? I just want to get it out there before. What is it? You weren't allowed to own it. You weren't allowed to own it. Wasn't for sale in Canada, by the way, only California. What's the other big stigma that goes with this vehicle? Anyone know? Generationally speaking, it had excellent range. But yeah, you're right, compared to today. But what's the other? Yes. There's actually a documentary on this called Who Killed the Electric Vehicle? Yeah, remember this? So GM innovated, designed, created EV1, and then killed the program a few years later. And of course, that's generally a really negative thing for GM with most people. But I would argue it's a huge positive. So, and here's why. Like, if we look at this car right now, 1996, 27 years ago. 27, because that's what, 96 build, but 97 model year. So, a long time ago. I look at that and I see a Jetson futuristic car. Everybody else see that? Even 26 years later, it looks futuristic to me. But that was a long time ago. So anyone know anything about that vehicle? Anyone know anything about EVs, generally speaking, today? A few of us, right? That's cool. That's good. So that vehicle, 26 years ago, that looks futuristic, is our now, really, because it had a thing called a heat pump. Anyone know what the significance of that in modern EVs? Yeah. Maximizes efficiency and leads the industry. There's only two, now three manufacturers use a heat pump. Us, Tesla, and another OEM I won't mention. Yes, I won't talk about them. And maybe Hyundai, okay? But it was a huge innovation. Anything else about this vehicle? It was, yes. Yes, bingo. Now, what does blended braking mean, first of all, to anyone? Because it also was the first vehicle to offer blended braking. You know, our brakes use calipers and on your rotors to select friction, right? Blended braking.
Yeah, so you're using the motor regen on the battery so it provides resistance.
Yes.
The physical clamping of the brake drum on.
There you go. I know, okay, here you go. You ready? So blended braking for everybody online is really where we're combining the technology electric motors provide to create regenerative braking, which is where the electric motor is able to be a generator and create energy to put back in the battery. But by using one brake pedal, you're blending traditional friction brakes, which you need occasionally to stop suddenly, with the ability to maximize efficiency and create energy. GM was the first to create blended braking and regenerative braking. The combination piece there. That was the first vehicle to have push-button start. That's not even an EV thing. That's just in every vehicle you look at nowadays, push-button start. There are some significant electro-hydraulic braking, another one. And that's what's leading us into autonomous driver assistance systems like Super Cruise for GM, or some other manufacturers like Ford with Blue Cruise. So huge innovations this vehicle launched. And yet what we're known for, GM especially, is killing it. Well, the real reason it was killed, it was always a short-term, massive expense R&D project. It was never for sale because they wanted complete control over it as a captured test fleet. So they eventually canned the program because it wasn't sustainable for a business. But it was a huge leap forward. And so with that, with GM's concept skateboard chassis just a year later, we wouldn't have Tesla as we know it today. We wouldn't have the modern EV era. It was only 8 years later that GM launched the Volt that Don mentioned earlier. And that really was one of those first key vehicles to usher in the modern EV era. Huge innovation that led us to today, and it's been our pleasure and our honor to be a part of that journey with GM ever since with our training, and that's right from the Durham region. So,
Well, thank you, Tim.
there we go. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. I have another one here, but I'm just going to throw it out quickly. We won't debrief it because I've eaten up some more time. What's this one? Does anyone know what that is? Oh, we've got another one. It is the Honda Insight from 1999. Let's give out another one. We won't debrief that one. I put it up there because I thought it was kind of interesting. We have a member of our team that actually still drives that vehicle today. He drives it year-round, winter, summer. So EVs have been around for a while, but we're on the verge of more widespread adoption. With EVs, the conversation changes a bit, though, doesn't it? There are some new discussions that come up at the water cooler now that we've never had before. EVs, PHEVs, HEVs, BEVs, BEVs, range, kilowatts, kilowatt hours, level 1, level 2, DC fast charging, home charging, public charging, and adapters. So the topic on EVs can be confusing to those who are not immersed in the industry. So here is where our team comes in to support this transition with digital and live experience solutions. Let's start with our digital solutions. I've got a slide here that really notes the areas that we cover, and our virtual folks can see it, our folks can see it here, webcast, virtual delivery, 3D environments. But for the sake of the people on the webcast today, I just want to take a few moments to show you around. So if we look out here, take a look at our audience is actually sitting in a 1,600 square foot production space equipped with fixed overhead lighting, and the more important part is we've got a 600 square foot softbox in place that allows us to have great detail on all the vehicle demos that we do or the training for our customers. Over here is our production team. Maybe we can zoom in on them. Jaden, give a wave. Miguel and Calvin, give us a wave, give us a wave. This is the team that actually manages our Zoom feed, our camera switching, our live content, our video content. This allows us to create dynamic environments for our virtual participants. That's where the magic actually happens on shows like this one. Now, hidden from view is our 30-foot green screen. Let's take a look. Maybe zoom in on that for our participants at home. Get that right open there. Open it right up. This enables us to create absolutely any environment in this space that we need for virtual training. Now, Calvin's being modest. That screen goes all the way to the other wall. But there's one more thing. Behind us here, we can't really see it, is our Studio 2, which is fully equipped with cameras, lighting that enables us that secondary virtual space during our live broadcasts and development of our on-demand resources. Our folks here, you can come take a look after the broadcast today, but we just wanted to give our folks at home a sneak peek on the space that we're actually working with today. So I will wrap up by talking a little bit about our reach. They're going to close that, and there we go. We moved into this space in 2020, and we transformed what was essentially a warehouse space into this facility. Since then, we've delivered virtual training to over 45,000 participants and over 1,500 sessions. Our team also travels coast to coast to deliver training in over 30 cities in Canada, where we give participants the opportunity to get hands-on and learn about vehicles and new technology firsthand. We're thrilled to learn about the funding programs that are being talked about today and introduced by our partners. And our DC Corporate Training Services team is excited to support all of you in the industry in this important transition to EV. I'm now going to call up another member of our Durham College team, Chris Gillis, to come to the stage. Chris?
I'll need the flicker. I know. Thank you very much. And wow, Andrew, I must say that you've set a pretty high bar to follow in that. But my experience with corporate training is you always set a pretty high bar, and this is kind of a hidden gem down here, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, so good morning and welcome everyone, and to our virtual audience and our in-person audience. My name is Chris Gillis. I am the Manager of Applied Research Business Development at Durham College, and I work for the Office of Research Services, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship here at the college. And I am, like Andrew, very excited for you to hear about the funding opportunities that we're going to hear about a little bit later on. And specifically, I'm here to let you know how Durham College and ORSI, as we call our department, can support companies wishing to take advantage of this, of this funding. So let's just see, does that work? There we go. And it's a little strategic initiative we call DCAVAR. And so really, what is DCAVAR? Well, basically, it is Durham College's Automated Vehicle Applied Research Strategic Initiative. And in particular, we actually work with 3 of our technology hubs, basically our our AI hub, our Center for Cybersecurity Innovation, and our Mixed Reality Capture Studio. And we do projects in a wide variety of areas that support automated electric autonomous vehicles, infrastructure in that particular space, and advanced manufacturing methods. And we like to refer to this as our sort of triple pronged approach. We basically, as I said, work with our 3 hubs in all of this, and we kind of think about this approach as basically our smart, secure, and our simulation for the different projects that we kind of work on. And so I'd like to take a few moments and just introduce a couple of the hubs to you so you know what we offer there and offer companies. So for our AI hub, or artificial intelligence hub, that I think AI is pretty much on everyone's radar these days with ChatGPT, our AI hub can offer companies basically access to leading edge state-of-the-art facilities. We have highly skilled student teams led by experts and experts in their industry. And I think to date, we have done something around 166 projects out of the AI hub. So we have some history in this particular area. They can be projects that are maybe standalone, or they can interface with web applications, mobile applications, a whole variety of different applications. And I'll give you some specific examples of the types of things that have been worked on. So typically we have worked on business solutions in various sort of, with various AI sort of applications that actually transfer very, very nicely to, I would say, fleet management for EVs, EV charging applications. Our AI technology in healthcare really, I think, demonstrates our ability to work in that space and handle sensitive data, but also it opens up the opportunity when we have these connected vehicles to maybe do biometric monitoring or other sorts of health monitoring right in the vehicle itself. So interesting thoughts really around that. And in terms of our AI system support, planning and management, I would say a direct transfer application to Industry 4.0, advanced manufacturing operations that would need sophisticated AI-type management systems. And we've also been operating in the nuclear space. And again, I think in the nuclear space, this really demonstrates the AI Hub's ability to work with high-risk environments and high-security environments that we will see both in vehicles and in our new advanced manufacturing sort of environments. Next, we have our Center for Cybersecurity Innovation, one of our newer technology hubs in this space. And, you know, I think we can really understand as we think about electric, connected, and automated, whether it be vehicles or whether it be in advanced manufacturing, the need for cybersecurity. As we increase our connectivity, we are really going to need to deal with sort of cybersecurity issues in moving forward in that. And again, through our Center for Cybersecurity Innovation, companies can access skilled student teams led by industry experts in this particular area, and we can work in a whole variety of project types, from working on a particular standalone project or being just an extension of a team that you maybe need to do some work. So some examples here of the types of services that you can receive through our Center for Cybersecurity Innovation are really comprehensive security risk assessment, which really is applicable more and more to anything connected. Penetration testing to see actually how good your security systems actually are, incident response, security awareness, and then R&D in this. A really interesting application in this area that I became aware of maybe about a year ago that maybe is a wee bit scary and this sort of stuff, but we found out that somewhere around 20% of the electric or electronic microchips that go into EVs and to advanced manufacturing equipment are what they call dirty. Not kind of what you're thinking, but what I mean by that is they're recycled chips, and they have some sort of script on them. So, you know, we have a worldwide chip shortage, and obviously the need basically to recycle these. And are they just bits of other code, or is it embedded malware? Who knows? But we need cybersecurity to actually have and come up with solutions so that as we put these into our vehicles, into advanced manufacturing equipment, that we know they're safe and they're reliable. So interesting really there. I'd also like to mention that our Center for Cybersecurity Innovation currently has funding that will allow them to offer these services at a very discounted rate to organizations. So if that's of interest, we'd love to chat with you. Lastly, our MRC Mixed Reality Capture Studio, and as Andrew kind of pointed out with a lot of the mixed and virtual reality, that's really what this is. When I talk to people about this, I typically start with, so do you know what the holodeck is on the Starship Enterprise? And most of us do. I know Dan actually, I think, asked that to his younger children, and they kind of looked at him with a very quizzical face. And so maybe obviously not everyone, but that's basically what we have. An amazing facility. I think it's 3 in Canada or 3 in North America. It's certainly leading edge. And really that's what we do in terms of extended reality and the fully immersive environment. And of course, what's interesting is we used to think about this really as solely the purview of gamers. And of course now immersive reality is moving into all sorts of Main Street applications. We can simulate all sorts of things for law purposes. And I'll just give you a few examples of the types of things. When you think of our ability to have this markerless motion capture, we could actually track the movement of a human being, and you think of what opportunities are there to develop training, maybe actually emergency response in actually safe environments that don't actually put people at risk. Again, we used to think of all these high-powered computers as really gamers, but now gaming has come really to basically advanced manufacturing, training, simulations, all of that sort of work in there, as well as the whole electric connected automated vehicle side of things. Our volumetric scanning capabilities are really quite interesting. We can take very quickly any sort of environment, whether that actually be a street intersection or whether that be a manufacturing cell work unit or entire manufacturing line, and spin it up and simulate it virtually so you can actually play with it before you start to move equipment around and really start to spend a lot of money on that. Our virtual production capabilities for movie making, theater, cinema, and all of that. And then the range of mixed and virtual reality headsets. I was saying to Don just at the beginning of this, interesting enough, I had a discussion with a company that manufactures hydroponics. But their manufacturing facility is in North America, and currently a lot of their sales and service are overseas in Asia. And so we were talking about the ability to actually, instead of actually have to bring a physical unit with you, bring a headset. You can use it for sales, you could use it for training, customer service, and sort of the applications are really pretty endless when you think of all of that. Also, I'd like you to think about DC AVR as part of an extended network. We're not just a standalone entity. And so when you work with DC AVR, you get an awful lot more than it initially appears apparent. And specifically, I wanted to just mention, I know Sherry's going to talk a little more detail about this, but we are a core partner. We are the lead for Durham College in the Durham Region Technology Development Site, along with basically Invest Durham, Spark Center, and Ontario Tech U. And so it's really interesting that you get really all of these services, all of these partners when you work with us. And what I would say, Dan, is maybe the most collaborative ecosystem in Ontario, maybe Canada, the world, whatever. Yeah. So I'll just close by asking you, when you think of DC AVAR, please think of smart, think of secure, think of simulation, and basically think that when you work with us, the possibilities are endless. Thank you. And it's now my pleasure to call up Jennifer Uslip from Ontario Tech U. Jennifer.
Welcome. It's great to be here with everyone. There's a lot of passion and enthusiasm, and it's great to be here with so many partners in this innovation ecosystem that we're at Ontario Tech proud to be a part of. And I'm joined by many of my colleagues who, for those in the room, I hope you'll get a chance to connect with. They're winning all the awards because they have all the technical expertise and they have history. So we're not going to let them answer any more questions, but it is an honor to be here. My name is Jennifer Alsop. I'm an industry liaison with the Office of the Vice President of Research in Innovation at Ontario Tech University. I'm here today to talk a little bit more about Ontario Tech's specialization in commercial scale energy and automotive research, as well as our development services. But as Don and Dan have both talked a little bit about talent, I'd be remiss not to highlight that for those of you in the room, it's important for you to know about the talent that is here for our current needs in our ecosystem, but also the future talent and the skills and the capabilities and the always innovating attitude that we need our future talent to have. So Dan mentioned this very briefly, but Ontario Tech in our Faculty of Engineering and Applied Science has Canada's only accredited automotive engineering program, Canada's only accredited manufacturing engineering program, and that's complemented also by the suite of other programs, including software, mechatronic, electrical, and new this fall, starting in just a few weeks, will be the first class of the new energy engineering program, as well as a new industrial engineering program. So all of that to be complemented, and as others have talked about, the sector needs a variety of talent, skills, and knowledge. So our computer science, networking, IT, or cybersecurity expertise in our programs within other faculties at undergraduate, master's, and PhD levels are all going to be incredibly valuable to the work that's ahead. Another kind of point of differentiation for Ontario Tech, we have a very high level of undergraduate students who have the opportunity to do research projects. So why is that important? Whether they're pursuing their academics or they're going to be your future workforce, they're bringing that always innovating development, exploration attitude to the workforce to continue the innovation that we know is mapped forward. So when Ontario Tech opened its doors 20 years ago, it did so with a mandate to be market-driven and industry responsive. So no surprise that based here in Durham, Canada's energy capital, we have deep experience in both energy and automotive. So from a research side, I just wanted to quickly talk about the Brilliant Energy Institute, which is built on Ontario Tech's research expertise and experience with a mission to support Canada's leadership in the global transition to a net zero future. So how is that being done? By supporting the generation of new clean technologies, integrating low carbon energy into our communities and working together with our partners on how to do that, and creating and fostering community and collaboration, whether that be knowledge sharing or also through engagement with indigenous communities or others, and also just participating in energy management, which is critical to our future. I'm going to talk a little bit more. Dan mentioned the Clean Energy Research Lab, which is a really amazing facility led by a global leader in Dr. Abraham Dinser, who, along with his team of researchers, is doing a lot of innovative work in renewables, in clean hydrogen production technologies and systems, as well as thermal energy solutions, and working on integrated energy solutions for Indigenous communities, just to name a few. There's a lot of work. I'm going to mention, we call it CERL, but the Clean Energy Research Lab, again, in just a second. Sherry's going to talk more about the RTDS. Ontario Tech, as Chris said, along with Durham College and Spark, is very proud to be a partner in the RTDS. And we're going to talk about the ACE Climatic Aerodynamic Wind Tunnel, which is a core research and testing facility. So there is amazing research work being done along with the experts that I'm going to share more about. But it is also a testing facility for OEMs, for SMEs. And let's get into that a little bit more. And for those of you who are in the room, John Komar, one of our prize winners, who's the executive director of ACE, is here to talk more about ACE. So please grab him or myself once we wrap up. But the climatic wind tunnel in ACE, or our main chamber, and the entire facility, which is the only of its kind in the world to have both climatic and aerodynamic testing in one place. We can do minus 40 to plus 60 degree temperature, all forms of precipitation, winds up to 240 kilometers per hour. And when you're talking about being in the weather business and battery and EV, this is our essential combination to be able to test and really move the needle forward in the work that we're doing. Newer to ACE is the fact that we now have DC fast charging within the facility. We're moving ground plane, which some of you have seen. Would love to share more about that. And as Dan also mentioned, in-chamber hydrogen fueling, which is exceptional in terms of how we are moving forward in hydrogen discovery. There are a number of different chambers in addition to the main climatic wind tunnel in ACE, which gives our clients or our research partners flexibility. There's many different spaces, many different price points to test many different pieces that you need. And I want to highlight that we kind of joke about it a little bit, but we are a place where we get things done. Whether you're a research or an industry partner, we want to hear the problems, the challenges, what are your goals? And we and our team of staff, we have 20 plus industry veterans, both engineers, technicians, machinists, who are dedicated to working in ACE. This team comes together and we get it done with our partners. So happy to talk more. Some of you have been in ACE. We look forward to bringing others in the future. And to highlight a few other key pieces, there is a prototype lab space. So fabrication space, software validation and testing, and the ACE Innovation Garage. So yes, lab space, but also space for those partners to come in, do the work, do the testing. You don't have to leave. There doesn't have to be a disjointed piece to your process and what you're going through. So come in, collaborate, be a part of the ecosystem in Ontario Tech and all of our partners. The wireless environment allows us to offer AV sensors and antenna performance testing, radar systems under severe weather, again, all types of weather. Transmission and emission of information, which is very important in this, especially also in AV development as well. And our EV and charger testing, battery testing in all climate conditions, very critical. Under vehicle thermal imaging capability, EV charger test bench, and the DC fast charging that I mentioned earlier. So we have done a number of industry and partner programs, some with the OVA and RTDS, so I mentioned. These are just a sample of different topics in different areas that we've already been investigating with many of our different researchers, some who are in the room. But I wanted to flag coming soon, and you're some of the first to hear about it publicly, is the Hydrogen Demonstration and Commercialization Center that will be opening at Ontario Tech. That is the combination of all of the capabilities and the fueling, hydrogen fueling in ACE, combined with the work and the research expertise of the Clean Energy Research Lab, supported by the ecosystem of the university. We already have 2 industry projects that are locked in and underway, so we'll be excited the work is happening, and you're the first kind of to hear about it, other than unless you went to Texas with John and had a great couple conversations. So thank you, Dan, for talking about our research excellence. We're very proud of the fact that Ontario Tech is one of Canada's newest universities, has climbed the ranks in research over the last 20 years. This team is supported by the Office of Research Services. So all of our partners have that service provided, whether it's supporting work on grant applications, funding models, all of the things. And we're going to hear more about different funding opportunities in a second from our friends at NGen and OVEN who are here. But there's a lot of opportunity, and we're very proud of the work that we've been doing. I want to highlight a few researchers. This is 2 people. One of them's in the room, so I hope you will join us. But Dr. Sheldon Williamson, who is the Canada Research Chair in Electric Energy Storage Systems for Transportation Electrification. He's doing incredible work along with graduate students in a couple of different labs. We're honored to have him as part of this. He is working on several industry projects, and you could be the next one. And also Dr. Brad Easton, who's also a Research Excellence Chair in Electrochemical Energy Materials. We talked about the importance of materials characterization, batteries. He is currently the lead researcher for battery chemistry development and evaluation for Flexengate's Battery Innovation Center, which is supported by NGen. So we're doing a lot of great work in this space. We want to keep doing more with the support of our partners. And yes, Project Arrow was built at Ontario Tech in the ACE facility. Important to just keep highlighting this for a number of reasons. One, the APMA, and Dan mentioned Colin Dillon and Flavio Volpe earlier, they selected Ontario Tech to be the build partner because of our expertise from both a research and academic side, our facilities, but also our longstanding reputation for successful industry partnerships, successful work on commercialization. A lot of lessons learned, a lot of opportunities to refine, working with 50+ industry partners on this exceptional project. So we look forward to what the next opportunities are and continuing this work because it was very exciting. And I wanted to flag this is the importance of the integration of talent development. Students worked on this project, and they have the most exceptional, always innovating mindset now coming out of this. And this is the environment where we can bring all of these pieces together to do this work with our industry partners, with our funding partners, to continue to drive the innovation and the hard work forward. So that's a little bit from me, and I'm very excited to welcome Sherry Colburn from the Spark Center up next.
I'm the short one in the crowd, so this has got to go down a little bit. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you to everybody who has spoken before me. I kind of feel like my job is done, and I can probably just go sit down. The Durham RTDS is headed up by the Spark Center in collaboration with our partners here at Durham College, Ontario Tech University, and of course, the region of Durham. And that I'm going to talk about a little bit later and why that is so critical to what we're doing here. But beyond the core partners, we also have industry partners. And the industry partners are critical because they bring the platforms that allow us and allow our clients, the entrepreneurs, the small and medium businesses, to really ride on those platforms that are going to be central to electrification. And then, of course, we have our institutional partners, which are, in my mind, they're the kind of the infrastructure people that really own all of this together with the municipalities. So I think what we have here in Durham Region is a very specialized and very committed group of partners who are trying to advance electrification. I won't go into the deep depths of the 4 partners because I think that's been really well covered. But suffice it to say, and I think to your point that you made, Chris, and I know, Dan, we're stealing your end notes, super collaborative environment here. I've had the pleasure to work in a number of different innovation ecosystems, both here and around the world, and I can honestly say, hand on heart, this is a hugely collaborative environment and great for innovators who are really trying to sort of disrupt technology. This is the place to be, and it's affordable. So what makes our regional technology development site unique? There are 7 across Ontario, and John, of course, is going to be speaking to that. I think for us, I mean, there's, you know, we all have our own areas of expertise. So ours, of course, is transit and vehicle electrification, safe and accessible transportation, and of course, smart and connected mobility and infrastructure. But our uniqueness doesn't really rest there as much as it does in the collaboration piece that's going on here. At the center of our regional technology development site, we have the region of Durham and Invest Durham. And the reason I feel that that is super unique is because we've got the people who have the most vested interest in promoting the region, in building the economy in this region as supporters of what we're doing in this region. And that allows us to bring real-time municipal challenges that every municipality across the world will face through electrification, and really creating challenge statements that we then can draw solution providers into our region, and with the support of the region, develop these pilots and experiment with this technology, which is really, you know, the core of adoption of any technology. Obviously, I've talked a little bit about our partners and their platforms and what they bring to the table. Again, between the region of Durham and Spark and our partners, we have vast reach into the global networks. And I think that for anybody who has visions of their solution becoming truly scaled, this is the place to be, because we've got the arms and legs and the boots on the ground in, you know, more than 20 countries that I can name off the top of my head, that we can bring these solutions to them. And of course, we have our challenge pipeline. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. Here's what it looks like to become a member of the Durham Regional Technology Development Site. First of all, we have a number of ways that we can intake people into the technology development site. We have our challenge statements. Currently, we are on challenge 3. We are doing around 3 challenges a year. So if you have not heard much about that, please, you know, go to the Durham RTDS social sites. You'll see lots of posts on the challenges as they come out, when things are due, and when the awards are being made. Above and beyond that, we also have our events. So we host many events. In fact, one is coming up on November 1st, which is our Future of Transportation and Mobility series. I can't even remember how many we're on now. I think maybe 6 or 7. 6, yeah, thank you, Chris. So these are just a great way for you to connect with like-minded individuals, but also to meet new people that will be advantageous to the work you're doing. And of course, we have our partners. People come, as I think Jennifer, Chris, and Dan spoke to. We have such a deep level of expertise in this region through Durham College, through Ontario Tech U, that lots of people come into these centers, not even through the front door of our innovation center. So there's such a great opportunity for everybody who reaches into Durham, no matter which channel you come through, to get into the regional technology development site and then benefit from the full spectrum of services that are available. Speaking of the full services, My colleagues before me have gone into far more detail about what is available at all these centers. I'm not going to rehash those, but suffice it to say that through Ontario Tech, through Durham College, we have very, very expert individuals and expertise just in terms of assets, testing facilities that are brought to the table. At Spark, of course, we are one of 17 regional innovation centers across Ontario. So besides the fact that we are one of 7 regional technology development sites in the OVEN program, we also have a much larger network of innovation centers that can take companies from small to full, full scale. And we have our partners. So that's really kind of the level of expertise that is within our regional technology development site. And then lastly, why? Why do we all do this? I mean, we're doing it for the outcomes. We all want to advance electrification. I stand before you as a drinking the Kool-Aid electric vehicle owner. I'm on number 2. Sorry, it's not GM, but anyway. I think electrification across the board is awesome. I think that we are sitting at a very pivotal moment in history right now where we have finally embraced this momentous shift from ICE to electrification. And I think everyone in the room and everybody who's online listening, this is a unique moment. And I think that with the OVEN network, Ontario has had great vision in creating this kind of sandbox that exists across Ontario to really advance electrification. And I'm happy to say that we're part of the Durham RTDS, and although it's a bit of shameless self-promotion, I think we're the best. So I'll just say that. My colleague Dan, who spoke before, a great quote from him, by demonstrating these technologies through the challenge statement model, companies can demonstrate the effectiveness of their marketable solutions to current challenges. These are real challenges. And I'm gonna steal a line from a young man that I just met, Cameron, who's just right there. He actually is the founder of a company called Real Life Robotics. And he was exchanging with me a story about why he called his company Real Life Robotics. And honestly, it resonated with my heart. He, like I, have spent a lot of time in the company of engineers, and we love you all. But there's something about real life, right? That didn't fit all the, the prescribed testing. There's always things that are out there that are unique, that come up, and I think real life is what we're doing here in Durham. I think that's what makes us so unique, and we do that by working with the region of Durham in challenges around real municipal issues that electrification are going to bring to the table. We're now on challenge number 3. I won't go through all the details of the previous challenges, but suffice it to say that we will be continuing this rollout of challenges over the next 2 years. And so we've got 6 more challenges to go. So for anybody who hasn't been paying attention, please do so. I'm going to sort of glaze over these, not because I want to glaze over them, but because I think my colleagues have done a much better job of describing what each of their what their assets are that they bring to the table. Ontario Tech U, we heard from Jennifer, amazing facility. I don't know how many people in this audience have actually been to ACE. Honestly, it's breathtaking. It is one of a kind in the world, so it's not to be, it's significant to have a facility like this in Durham Region. I'm proud that it's in Durham Region and it's not in downtown Toronto. So, and of course, all the testing and certification and the, prototyping, everything that Jennifer spoke about, of course, is there for the taking. And then, of course, as Chris spoke about with Durham College, here we are in this amazing facility. But beyond that, Durham College has, I think it's 5, and I think I just heard maybe now 6 research centers. But the ones that are really brought to the table for Durham RTDS have been the AR and VR, obviously the AI hub, and of course, super important is the cybersecurity piece. And Chris, to your point about dirty chips, it's interesting. I love electrification. Chris is also an EV owner, so we've been drinking this Kool-Aid for a while. But it is the one thing that does create a little bit of angst, in the sense that I describe electric vehicles as a computer on wheels, as opposed to a car. An ICE vehicle is kind of like a vehicle with computers in it. But the fact that it's so highly technical is something that does give me a little bit of pause, because we all know that, security is a huge issue with technology. And I don't like to think that my car might be hacked by somebody who's malicious and could take me off the road because they're somehow into the intelligence system of my car. All right. And of course, Spark, as I mentioned, we are one of 17 regional innovation centers. We provide business services, support services, residency, access to mentors, industry experts. We are connected into the global, or the larger, I should say, funding network in Ontario for startups. Obviously, OCI being the funder of OVEN, one of the funders that we bring to the table through Durham RTDS. But even above and beyond that, as a RIC, we have access to a number of different funding programs, not the least of which is focused on intellectual property and protecting intellectual property. So lots of great funding available now for IP and IP protection. It's a full service support community for anybody who's coming into the Durham Regional Technology Development Site. Here's our partner platforms. We have a number of industry partners. What makes our industry partners so critical is that beyond bringing their platforms, they're also contributing in-kind contribution, which allows solution providers to ride on those platforms at no expense. So it's a very powerful group of industry partners that we have. So you can see here we have eCamion with advanced charging. We have Flowdraulic with purpose-built vehicle electrification. Innovex with municipal smart traffic and transit data. We have Fortran with the smart intersection simulation sandbox. We have Cavaris, which is a robotic sandbox. We have Hopin, which is focused on smart transit and mobility. And of course, Siemens, advanced simulation and a synthetic environment. So lots of very disruptive platforms that can be accessed as part of the Durham RTDS. This picture here actually is the award winners from the first challenge that we did at the beginning of last year. These folks, Parsons and SmartCone, partnered together and won this particular challenge. In a nutshell, the challenge participants, if you are a winner, you become eligible for a 6 to 12 month pilot with the municipality. And what makes that, in my mind, so powerful is that you really are co-developing solutions for real-world challenges together with one of the municipalities. In this case, of course, it's Durham. You get access to the technical expertise and, of course, business advisory. And I just got the hook, so I'm going to get off the stage. This is how you can engage with us. I'm not sure if all these slide decks are going to be available to people, but certainly if you would like it, please let me know. And with that, I'll say thank you. And I now have the pleasure of welcoming John George from OCI.
Please do. You heard Andrew. If you have questions, please use the chat to put in your questions in the Q&A. We will take that after this presentation. So good morning, everyone. My name is John George. I've got two first names, and I'm the sector manager for the open programs at OCI. I've been here for almost a year now. So around the same time that Dan switched roles. So as Dan said, he's those are some big shoes to fill. There's no way I'm going to be filling them. So thank you so much for that compliment, Dan. And if I were to bring Dan here to do this presentation, he would do a better job than me here. So no worries there. So what is OVEN? So OVEN is the Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network. You've heard OVEN being talked about in these presentations quite a bit. So what is OVEN? So OVEN is the Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network, and we are part of Ontario government's Driving Prosperity Plan. We were created back in 2017 with the goal of making sure that Ontario stays on the forefront of automotive and mobility. And back in 2017, when we were created, it was a time when AVs were popular, so we were back then known as AVEN. And since then, we've kind of rebranded with the added mandate of including electrification, because now that's the popular wave in the province. And we know that everyone is focused on bringing electrification on the table. So AVEN rebranded as OVEN, and now we have the added mandate of having electrification on them. And what do? We enable Ontario's transportation and infrastructure network to plan for and adopt this transformation. So we play a qualitative role and a quantitative role. At the core of it, we support SMEs, and we help them access, we help them develop, test, pilot, and commercialize new automotive and mobility technology. We also help them hire talent, and we also help them gain access to testing facilities. And these are some stats on the screen over here. The jobs that we've created over the time, the companies that we've supported, so on and so forth. So everyone talked here about the advantage of Canada. Dan talked about the advantage of Canada. Now I'll talk about why Ontario. Now we've been talking about Durham Region and Canada, but now we take a step back and we look at what the province has to offer. So why Ontario? Ontario has over 100 years of experience for being a leading automotive manufacturing supply jurisdiction. We are the second largest vehicle assembler in North America, and based on the time we are looking at, sometimes we are the first, sometimes we are the second, but on an average, we're the second largest vehicle assembler. We have the 5 main OEMs in the province. We've got Ford, GM, Stellantis, Honda, and Toyota. And we have over 700 supplier tool and die mold makers in the province. And we have over 400 SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises in the CAV and EV sector that's working in the province. And we have, Durham College, Ontario Tech, and more than that, we have universities and colleges that's churning out world-class talent. And now this is a slide that I like to show, people to show that what's happening in the province right now. And this is the investments that's been in the province over the past 24 months alone. That's over $25 billion. And as you can see, the latest one, the Volkswagen deal that happened in St. Catharines, is a testament to show that Ontario is attracting world-class investments and world-class, automotive manufacturers to put down the roots in Ontario and leverage the province for the coming electrification wave. And this is a map that I'd like to show what the province holds. You've seen this map quite a lot often. So from Windsor to Durham is a traditional automotive manufacturing cluster. From Waterloo to Ottawa is our ICT cluster. And over there is our Northern Ontario critical mineral opportunities. So Ontario, as you can see, is blessed with everything that is required for the electrification wave that's coming, and we are ready to leverage that. And OVEN is on the forefront, driving that innovation. We heard about the RTDSs here. I would like to take a step back and say that RTDSs, or the Regional Technology Development Sites, is one of OVEN's macro investments. So OVEN invests in the province at a macro level and at a micro level. At a macro level, we fund 7 sites. It's going to be 8 because one more is in the works. 7 of these sites across the province that are hyper-focused on mobility. And at the core of it, what these sites are a local collaboration between key stakeholders in the automotive and mobility ecosystem. That involves the RICs there, the academic institutions, industry partners, so on and so forth, right? And what they do at the core of it is they provide business and advice services, and also in addition to that, they also have some unique characteristics that are associated with each and every of these sites. One of the sites in Windsor, we have a virtual reality cave. In Hamilton, we have a 5G test bed. In Toronto, we have the Hardware Catalyst Initiative, which is a lab to create semiconductor chips. Durham, we have the ACE Wind Tunnel, ACE Climatic Testing Facility that you heard about. In Ottawa, we have the Area X.0, and our latest RTDS is the latest RTDS is the Northern RTDS, which is a collaboration between 6 municipalities in Northern Region that is focusing on the critical mineral opportunity there. So that's the high-level summary for the RTDS sites, I would say. Now this is going to be the bread and butter of this presentation. If you were not listening right now, you should start listening, because now we're going to be talking about the funding programs. So what does Owen do, and how does Owen fund the ecosystem? So as I told you, Owen funds at a macro level and at a micro level. At a micro level, we fund companies directly. When I talk about companies, we talk about funding SMEs. So we have 4 main programs as part of the R&D Partnership Fund that SMEs across the province can leverage. The first one focuses on CAV and smart mobility. The second one focuses on electric vehicles. There's a third program that is known as the Winter Tech Development, which focuses on CAV and EV technologies, but which has got a winter weather challenge. And the fourth program is known as Talent Development, which is open for SMEs and MNEs to hire talent to employ them to do STEM research in their companies. Now we'll be focusing on EV as part of this presentation, and I'll give you more details on how to apply, what the application looks like, and what specifics are. So moving on into the details of the EV program. So within the EV program, there are 2 streams. There's Stream 1 and there's Stream 2. The Stream 1 opportunities are for smaller projects, for projects that has got a total project budget of $300K or less. In that it's a 2-to-1 cash match, which means that Owen's contribution caps out at $100K. So for a total budget of $300,000, $100,000 comes from us, and the rest of the $200,000 comes from the applicant and the primary partner. And by virtue of how our program is set up, it's always focused at commercialization. So you need a commercial partner or a primary partner tied to the project. And primary partner is someone who's bringing the market pull to this project, and I'll get into the details of who a primary partner can be a bit into the presentation. So as I said, it's a 2-to-1 cash match. We look to work with technologies that are at least at a technology readiness level 3, which means that it is at a point where it's at a proof of concept and it's been validated, and the next step for you as a company is to commercialize that. So that's where we come in. That's where we are best leveraged. The total duration of a Stream 1 project can be up to 12 months. And it's a rolling intake, which means that for Stream 1 projects, there's no deadline. So whenever you're ready for a project, you can come to us and we'll open the application. And you're essentially just competing with yourself. So just to keep that in mind. It's a single stage application, which means that if you're ready for an application, we open the application, you complete the portal and put in you fill the application form, and it goes through the review process. The Stream 2, now those are for the bigger projects, which means that the total budget of a Stream 2 project can be $3 million or even more. It's still a 2-to-1 cash match, meaning that the maximum Owen contribution can be up to $1 million. The rest of the $2 million comes from the applicant and the primary partner. Similarly, similar as to Stream 1, the requirement is that the technology has to be at least at a technology TR level 3, which means that it has to be at least at a proof of concept. And in Stream 2, we want to see you go from TR 3 up to 7 to 9, and there's a mandatory demonstration event tied with the Stream 2 at the end of the project. So once you complete the project, there's a mandatory demonstration component where you demonstrate the technology in a real-life environment for the Stream 2 application. The Stream 2 projects can go up to 24 months. And it's not a rolling intake, Stream 2s. The Stream 2s are only open twice every year. So once in the fall and once in the spring. So the spring round has already closed. The next round opens early September. September 1st is when the EOI round opens for the Stream 2. So if you have any interesting projects that you're working on, now is the time to start that discussion with us. And for the Stream 2s, it's a two-stage process. So the first stage is the expression of interest stage. It's where we ask you to fill in a high-level application document with some high-level points regarding what your project is going to be. Then you submit that. It goes through a review process, and once it goes through a review process, a decision is made, and then you're invited to full proposal, which is another stage where you have a full application document that you submit, and there's a review process where that application is reviewed by external and internal review panel, and then there's a mandatory presentation component where you come in and present about the technology. And after that, the decision is made, and then you're awarded the funding. So the next EOI submission deadline for the Stream 2 is in November 7th, 2023. That's an error there. But if you're working on something exciting, please let us know. What do we look for? So what we're looking for in these projects, we're looking for commercialization objectives. We're looking for projects that are, that are fostering partnership and collaboration. We're looking for non-incremental strategic opportunities that are aimed at helping your companies commercialize and break into the industry. We're looking for projects that provide, that demonstrate a strong commercial and market pull. And we're also looking for projects that are focused, measurable, and demonstrable, right? And one thing that you need to know about the projects is that it needs to have at least two people, meaning the applicant and the primary partner. And we are the third party who comes in as the third funder, right? And also, one thing to note is that the participants agree to share high-level information about the project, so that it's something, non-proprietary data, that is the DISP. It's part of our application, which we can go through that when we get into the application itself, right? What is the eligibility for these programs? So the main eligibility is for the applicant. They have to be a for-profit SME based out of Ontario with R&D and commercialization operations in the province. What is the definition of an SME? The traditional definition of an SME is that you have to have less than 500 employees globally. Generally, Canadian subsidiaries of global M&Es are not allowed, but it's a conversation that we can have, because if there's a specific case, we are definitely open and willing to have that discussion. Eligible partners. Eligible partners could be for-profit SMEs, M&Es, and it could be even municipalities, indigenous communities, or non-for-profits. One thing to keep in mind about primary partners is that we want to see the evidence of an industry market pull, of a strong market pull. We want to know that this primary partner that you're partnering with is going to help you drive this product or this technology into commercialization and help you break into the industry. So the stronger that partnership is, the stronger your project is going to be. And the primary partner has Ontario operations and provides evidence of market pull. Again, it's a very significant portion of this project. We have to see, if let's say you're building a DC charging solution or an EV powertrain solution, having a big OEM, or let's say that's an example, would be the evidence of market pull. A company that would help you break into the industry. That's what we're looking for. And also, a requirement from the primary partner is they sign the funding agreement. So once these projects are all validated, they're approved, and the next step is contracting. So there's a funding agreement that is signed, that requires to be signed by all parties involved, which involves the applicant, the primary partner, and OCI. So all three parties sign an agreement. It's a non-negotiable portion of our application, and that needs to be signed by the primary partner too. You can also have secondary partners. So if there's more than one partner that is funding, that's providing financial support to the project, you can have more than one primary partner. They would come in as a secondary partner. They may or may not, they don't need to have Ontario operations specifically, but if they're providing funding to the project and if they're coming in as a secondary partner, they would need to sign the funding agreement. Other partners, non-contributing organizations. So there's situations where municipalities come in as partner or nonprofits come in as partner. If they can demonstrate the market pull, they can come in as a partner. But there are situations where we can not leverage money. So let's say if it's a municipality, because of the fact that they are essentially government funded, we are unable to leverage their contribution, even though it is relevant to the project. So these contributions we would identify as other contributions. Those are relevant to the project, but not part of the budget because of the fact that that's not from the industry. Moving on, some financial and expense consideration that you need to make. All eligible direct project contributions are considered as cash. So let's say and anything that is part of the budget is going to require a proof of payment. So if it's salaries paid, we would need the tax, the T4s and the pay slips. If it's expenses incurred through the project, we would need those expenses proof of payments because it's a reimbursement program. So we would need to see the proof of payment to be able to reimburse that back to you until you reach the funding limit. A general rule of thumb for any expenses that's part of the budget is that if that expense is incurred as a direct project cost, and if it's happening in Ontario, it can be a part of the budget. So that's a general thumb rule. You can look at that. Project activities carried out in Ontario. Materials, equipments, tools, software used in Ontario are eligible. Out of Ontario activities are usually non-fundable, which means that if it's, as I told you, anything outside of Ontario, even though if it's relevant, we are unable to leverage that because of the fact that it's money that's spent external to the province. Leverageable contributions are from private sources. So anything that is private money that is part of the budget can be leveraged. If it's government-funded sources like academic institutions or municipalities, we lose out on the opportunity to leverage that as part of the budget. It's a reimbursement program, meaning the first 10%. So let's say it's a $1.5 million project, 500K is what you've been awarded. The 10%, the 50K is provided to you initially when you start the project. The rest of the 80% of the money is reimbursed to you on a quarterly basis where you submit quarterly claims for the expenses that you incurred in that quarter, and 1/3 of that is reimbursed to you until you hit that 80%, so a total of 90%. The last 10% of that money, the last 50K is reimbursed to you, is released to you once you submit all the final report, and the primary partner is also required to submit a final report, and once that is completed, the last 10% is released to you. Founder salaries are capped at $5,000 per month, so something to note when you're putting in the budget. Commercial standard equipment as purchased or manufactured and supplied by partners. So capital expenses can also be part of the budget, so that's something to note here. So these are some eligible expenditures that can be covered as part of the OVEN project. R&D costs, equipment upgrades, equipment moving, leasehold improvements, sales and marketing, regulatory compliance, professional services, use of premises. All of these expenses which are directly related to the project can be accounted towards the project budget. And we also, if you go to our website, ovenhub.ca, there's a resource documents page where you can go and you can look up for eligible expenditure guide, which will show you all the expenses that can be leveraged as part of this project. So just to keep in mind, it's just to wrap up everything that I just told right now, it's a 2-to-1 cash match program, which means that it's for every dollar that OVEN spends, $2 comes from the industry and the partners. It's a reimbursement program, which means that it's retroactively reimbursed once you've expensed that, once you've incurred the expense, and yeah, so it's done quarterly until the funding is met. So that's a bit about, that's the entire thing about the funding opportunities here. So these are some of the success stories that we've had. We recently did a project with Acerta. Acerta was developing preventive vehicle failure predictions for Nissan. So this was a great project where Acerta was able to develop a technology in the CAV space, and Nissan was able to improve their offerings by equipping their technology in the vehicles in 2024, from 2025 year and beyond. Another project that we are all proud of here is Project Arrow. So Owen is one of the funders for this project, and you've heard about Project Arrow quite a lot, so I won't go about it. That's everything from my end. Thank you so much, everyone. And I will now pass it to Arthur to talk about the NGen funding.
All right, thank you, everybody. It's a great transition because we're going from municipal partners from our provincial partners. Now we're going to talk about some federal programs in the electric vehicle space. So hi, everybody. My name's Arthur Kong. I'm one of the directors of project development at NGen Canada, or short for Next Generation Manufacturing Canada. Firstly, thank you to and acknowledge and thank Dan and Ivan, everybody at Invest Durham for inviting us today, as well as our friends at Durham College CITS to host us in this beautiful facility. I want to say that I did not coordinate the background, the beautiful background color before getting dressed this morning. So yeah, thanks for hosting us. And oops, I don't know what happened there. I must have clicked it by accident. There we go. And I'm here to talk about our newest funding program. It's our Electric Vehicle Manufacturing Value Chain Program, or EVMP for short. So in your journey, when you're exploring to invest and continuing to grow here in Durham Region, please consider us as one of the many tools in the toolbox, as you've heard from all of our partners today. And happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. For those of you who don't know who we are, at NGen, we are an industry-led, not-for-profit entity that's been tasked to implement Canada's Advanced Manufacturing Global Innovation Cluster. You might have heard about us as previously called a super cluster. And our mandate, as implied in our name, is to help grow and enhance Canada's advanced manufacturing capabilities. And we do so through supporting the development, scale up and commercialization of advanced manufacturing technologies across the many manufacturing verticals that we have here in Canada, whether that be automotive, food and drink, or biomanufacturing, you name it, we have a presence there. We are pan-Canadian in nature, so I have two colleagues here today, John Sagana from Quebec and Akash Rao from BC, so we're great to have great to work with SMEs from across the country and foster that collaboration. And we do so, our work is founded on kind of like 5 key functions. We help promote Canadian capabilities here at home and abroad. So Canada will be the partner country at Hanover Messe in 2025. So we will be coordinating a delegation of companies to go over to Germany at the world's largest advanced manufacturing trade show. So stay tuned for that. We would love to have some presence from Durham Region as well. We also help make connections across Canada, as implied before. We are pan-Canadian in nature. So we kind of act as that connector and catalyst for collaboration and partnerships across the country. So we kind of bring people together. We also have workforce development and management capacity building programs. I'll talk more about that in a later slide. We also have pan-Canadian kind of like industry-led groups and councils to help develop tools and resources to help our SME manufacturers adopt next generation Industry 4.0 technologies. And last but not least, where my team comes in is that middle icon there. We deliver collaborative R&D funding programs. In 2021, NGen launched our first electric vehicle manufacturing related funding program. We received over $180 million worth of applications from across 80 industry partners across Canada. So definitely there's a lot of demand and appetite in that. We ended up funding $76 million worth of projects across 34 industry partners and 15 projects, seven of which included interprovincial collaboration. And overall, including that previous funding challenge, we've cumulatively funded over $40 million worth of EV manufacturing innovation across 100 industry partners. And also, as you can see from the diagram, across the EV value chain as well, all the way from the processing and refining of critical minerals to kind of looking at EV vehicle lightweighting and system efficiency gains. So you name it, we definitely work in that space. But needless to say, a lot has changed in Canada's automotive industry since our last 2021 EV manufacturing program. As John presented in the previous slide, here in Ontario alone, there was $25 billion of investments. We've also seen, like, in Beaucancourt, Quebec, a lot of EV investments coming in, as well as here in Ontario with PowerCo, VW, as well as LG Stellantis in Windsor. All these will need to be supported by a robust automotive innovation ecosystem, and I can't think of a better one like the one we have in Durham Region here. Federal Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne calls these investments a generational opportunity, and one of the biggest transformations that we've seen in the industrial landscape in modern times. So I think it's really our collective responsibility to ensure that, it's really our responsibility to ensure that these anchor investments are supported by Made in Canada IP and Made in Canada innovation, right? So that's why the objective of our NGen program is to use our funding. So we don't have billions of dollars like the SIF funding program, but we do have funding to help complement these anchor investments. And like I said before, to help build out these emerging EV value chains with Made in Canada manufacturing technologies and capabilities. The EVMP program, as I have on the slide here, will focus on the scale up and commercialization of transformative, collaborative, business-led projects that will target the value chains of battery electric vehicles and fuel cell electric vehicles. I'll go into more what I mean by that. In terms of NGen projects, regardless of the programs that we fund, they need to fulfill 5 key criteria. First and foremost, all NGen projects need to focus on process innovation. As implied in our name, we are next-gen manufacturing. So all of our projects, you're either developing an advanced manufacturing technology or you're developing a transformative production process, so like a new flow sheet or a new way of producing X widget, right? All of our projects also need to be transformative in nature. So we're looking for projects that are not only innovative here in Canada and North America, but globally. So we will ask projects to explain to us the type of intellectual property that you're developing and how it will help put Canada on the map and help us leapfrog over other jurisdictions across the world. Also, like Owen's program, we're also collaborative in nature, so we will require a meaningful collaboration, but at least between 2 Canadian industry partners, at least one of which needs to be a small medium enterprise, so that's less than 500 employees globally. All of our projects also need to be applied in nature, so it's also similar to Owen. We're not looking for projects that are kind of at an early stage experimental projects. We're looking for projects that have the short to medium term path to commercialization. And as I mentioned before, this is a really unique opportunity that we have here in Canada, but that window of time is really short for us to become part of these emerging electric vehicle value chains. So we want to make sure that the commercialization and that the path to market is very clear and ready to go. And last but not least, all of our projects need to be enduring. As with any government funding you're going to apply to, we want to look at, make sure that the projects have a broader benefit and impact on Canada's advanced manufacturing ecosystem, whether that be on workforce development, on environmental, social, and other economic development metrics as well. Now let's take a look at our eligible project types and eligible EV value chain areas. As I'd mentioned, NGen focuses on process innovation. So we're looking at projects that focus on the development of either an advanced manufacturing technology, a novel manufacturing process, or looking at circular economy processes and capabilities as well. And as this is an EV manufacturing program, we're looking at projects that are targeted at the following kind of areas across the EV value chain. So we're looking at processing of critical minerals and materials. So at NGen, we consider everything manufacturing downstream from extraction. So we don't fund anything about digging, but everything after that is considered in scope. We're looking at the manufacturing of traction batteries and their components and systems. Sorry. This keeps bouncing back on me here. We're also looking at the manufacturing of fuel cells and their related components and systems, the production of power electronics, electric machines. So we're looking at the electric motor and the gearbox and other, as well as significant vehicle lightweighting as well. But that lightweighting has to be related to the objective of electric vehicles. So kind of going on to our next slide. I won't kind of list out what's not in scope, but kind of quickly going over it. As I'd mentioned before, projects that primarily focus on product development. So we are focused on process innovation and process development. Projects that are related to off-road vehicles. As I mentioned earlier, we're focusing on the bread and butter here in Canada. That's the mainstream light duty and heavy duty vehicle automotive industry here. So we're looking at those value chains. We're not looking to fund anything related to internal combustion engines, but you know, the zero emission components of a hybrid architecture are in fact in scope. So I just wanted to clarify that. Projects related to the manufacturing of EV charging infrastructure is not in scope, as long as the innovation is on vehicle. That's definitely what we're looking for. And yeah. I won't go into those other ones. I'm sure we can have those offline if we want to have a further discussion. So kind of similar to what or presentation that John had. So what does a project consortia look like? So who can apply? So we're looking for at least 2 unassociated industry partners. So a lead and at least 1 other partner, right? And what I mean by a formal collaborative partner is one that contributes cash to the program and one that contributes background IP to the project as well. And you're collaborating to develop new and novel foreground IP. And you will also receive NGen funding. So that's what I mean by a formal collaborative partner. We also need to include at least 1 small medium enterprise, as I mentioned before, with less than 500 employees globally. And also, we need to demonstrate that clear path to commercialization that I talked about earlier. So we're looking for the involvement or support from either an industry-based market pull company, so a potential customer downstream from you that will help you commercialize your technology, or a vehicle manufacturer or a tier 1 business. So what I mean by involvement or support, so that ideally would be in the form of a formal collaborative partner, or if not a formal collaborative partner, somebody who can provide you with in-kind support. But if neither of those things, we're looking for at a minimum a strong and credible letter of support that will kind of commit to that commercialization after the project's complete. In terms of going over the nitty-gritties of what our program terms and requirements are, who can apply? So for-profit organizations, obviously, so these are industry entities, not-for-profit organizations that facilitate R&D but receive majority of their funding from the private sector, non-federal crown corps that's receiving funding from commercial activities, as well as indigenous organizations. Also very similar to OVIN, our programs is based on a reimbursement model. We're looking for projects that are a total between $1.5 and $8 million. we will reimburse projects eligible expenses up to 37% of total project value. So let's say you have an $8 million project, NGen will reimburse up to $2.96 million. So that's kind of like our NGen's maximum contribution per project. We fund everything from labor, the hours that are dedicated, the man hours dedicated toward a project is considered an eligible expense. Subcontractors up to a specific percentage. So academia and other R&D facilities the industry partners can certainly subcontract that out to academia as well. Capital and equipment up to 25% of total project value, materials and supplies, travel and other costs such as like IP related costs as well. Just to make sure that our project remains collaborative in nature. So we're saying of that 37% you get back from us, we're saying that any one partner cannot receive more than 70% of that. So that's just to make sure that everybody's contributing and everybody's participating in the project. We're giving a fairly healthy timeline to complete the project. So we're looking at up until the end of the 2027-28 government fiscal year to get all your expenses in. So that's March 31st, 2028. Our program is 100% stackable with other sources of government funding like OVEN. So if you do, we would love to work together and with our funding partners to ensure that we're developing great Canadian innovation. Kind of going into the process a little bit deeper. So we just kind of out of all these kind of key dates here and key process steps. The first and foremost, we're looking for projects to submit as an EOI or an expression of interest by mid-October, so October 11th, 5 p.m. After you submit something for screening, that's when and the NGen team will review it to make sure that it's in scope, that it meets our terms and requirements. And once you submit something for screening and we approve it, that's when you get access to the full application. The full application is where the bulk of the work is located, so we encourage everybody to submit it for screening as soon as possible. Let's start a conversation with us. The full application is due by mid-November at 5 p.m. Eastern. And I'll go over kind of in greater detail as to what these actually mean. So for screening or EOI, we're looking for very quickly 1,000-word kind of description of your project, contact information for you and all your partners, a signed application agreement, so essentially an NDA, to allow us to kind of discuss and look at any confidential or documents that you may send to us. We would also like a high-level financial proposal, so essentially a breakdown of the amount that you're contributing in cash, the amount that that will be reimbursed by NGen, any in-kind contributions, and any other confirmed sources of other government funding. And as you pass through screening, our team will also reach out to start a financial due diligence assessment to ensure that everybody can meet the financial commitments that you've stated in your application. So that's kind of a quick requirements for screening. And in terms of the full application, we're looking at very quickly responses to 10 application questions that are approximately 7,000 characters each. So that's approximately 1,000 words. A project plan, a risk register, an IP plan. So essentially an outline of the list of background IP that you're bringing into the project and the list of foreground IP that you're expected to produce from the project. So this is your best guess. Each financial workbook, one per partner, as well as additional attachments such as any letters of support that you might receive from potential partners. So you're not on this journey alone. Like myself, John, and Akash, and our team at NGen, we're here to help you throughout this journey. So like, let's say you have questions about, you want to discuss your project idea, you want to you want us to help you find potential partners. Feel free to reach out to us at ev-challenge@ngen.ca. We're here to help guide you throughout that journey. So I think that's something that we take very seriously. We also have tools to help you find potential partners. So live right now, we have what we call our EVMP virtual matchmaking platform. So feel free to log on And that's where you can kind of post potential project ideas and network and connect with other potential partners that you may decide to put in an application for. Sorry. We also have upcoming events. So we have an upcoming event with our critical minerals and materials partners later this month. We also have a virtual B2B networking session. So this is just to kind of like your kids are back to school, everybody's starting working and summer vacations over. Let's talk further about how we can spur greater collaboration through this program. And later on in September and October, we also have what we call our project development workshops to go into the nitty-gritties of what makes a good application, how you should fill out this application. So that definitely may be of interest if you decide to submit a project with us. We do have other funding programs coming down the line. So we recently closed our general advanced manufacturing funding back in June. Obviously right now, as I'm here to talk about our EVMP program. And later on this year, it's currently under consultation, is our industrial decarbonization and circular manufacturing program. So stay tuned for that. I don't have any details on what that will look like, but yeah, I'll definitely keep everyone posted. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a workforce development initiative. So separate from our project funding that I've been talking about at NGen, we also have our what we call our Future Ready initiative, which is helping our Canadian manufacturing footprint modernize and upskill their workforce. And it's currently made up of two programs. The first one is our Transformation Leadership Program, which is a 12-week program that will provide leadership teams of SME manufacturers with the tools to self-assess their businesses and find areas that can be matured to become globally competitive and develop essentially a roadmap to correct areas that may hamper their success and strategically align themselves to succeed. And obviously this is based on advanced manufacturing. So we're looking at topics like digitization and modernization, and like the adoption of Industry 4.0. The participating organization will only pay $1,500 for participating in TLP. Normally, such services cost around $7,500. So this is definitely a deal. And based on those gaps and opportunities that were identified in the TLP, companies have an option to take part in our second initiative called the AMPA program, where companies can select employees for upskilling and work with an NGen training liaison to undergo assessments and create personalized upskilling plans. So that's kind of like understanding your roadmap and gaps, and let's bring your team to upskill them and help modernize their talent and skills. And through the AMPA program, companies will get 80% reimbursement on upskilling for their employees that I mentioned before, up to a maximum of reimbursement of $4,000. This also includes skills assessments, upskilling supports worth an additional $3,000. So that's this $15,000 package will cost an organization only $2,500 to take part. I sound like an infomercial here, so please forgive me. And funding is available on a first come, first served basis for 300 manufacturers across Canada. So if you are interested in this, please reach out to my colleagues. This is not where my specialty is, but please reach out to our colleagues at transform@ngen.ca, and they're happy to have a conversation with you on that. So with that, I just wanted to close the presentation. And again, I think we're going to be, John, Akash, and I will be around, I think, for a little bit after today if anybody has any questions. And yeah, happy to chat further. So with that, I'm going to bring it back to Dan. So, yeah.
So we're moving into our Q&A portion. I'm going to invite Arthur and John back up in the assumption that we have some. So first of all, are there any questions from the audience here today? John. Come on up, Arthur. You can respond from this mic so the audience at home can hear the response.
Mm-hmm.
Just to reiterate the question for the audience attending virtually, in case you couldn't hear John, does the primary investigator need to be a PhD?
That's a very good question. So at NGen, we cannot fund academic institutions directly, but they can certainly be subcontracted by the industry-led consortia. And I don't think that there's any requirements as to whether that primary needs to be a PhD. It really depends on the industry consortia, and they can kind of work out the details with any academic institutional partners. I don't know, John.
Yeah. So the same thing applies for the OVEN programs too. The applicant or the primary person has to be the SME, and and just like what is applicable for NGen, an academic institution can be contracted for some certain portions of the project, and that is where the academic or the PhD presence kind of comes into the project. Also, we also helps SMEs hire the PhDs through our Talent Edge program. So that's another venue through which you can leverage our funding to get those expertise.
Great. Maybe I'll just ask a question myself. When a company comes to OVEN or NGen looking to provide an application, what type of support can they expect to get from OVEN or NGen?
So within our team, there will be the sector manager, that will be me, who will be running point on the applications. But as OVEN is an OCI program, we would have the business development managers. So there's two of my business development managers who are here, Sid and Amir, who are here. They'd be definitely willing to talk to you more about this. But at an application level, there'll be complete support. We'll be running point on the application. So the point from where we start the initial discussion on what a potential project could be, both the sector manager and the BD manager will be involved. And once the application has begun, a BD manager will be running point with you with respect to filling the portal, filling the application, and any questions you have until you get funded. And even then, we'll be maintaining the relationship with you. So it'll be a complete white glove package.
Yeah, that's a good question, Dan. I think very similar to OVEN, as I'd mentioned in our presentation, we take a very hands-on approach. Like the project development team at NGen will work with you from all the way from ideation to when you put together your application. If successful, through contracting and project execution, we're there for you throughout the journey. So earlier in the early stages of ideation, we'll help you craft project ideas that are in scope, as well as, if needed, help you find potential project partners as well. Oh, and also we have our virtual matchmaking platform and other kind of collaboration networking events that are coming up as well.
Great, thank you. We have a question online. I'm going to rephrase it slightly. To the question, can multinational corporations receive funding? And specifically, the online question is an individual from Togo, which is a country in development and wants to implement new technologies in their region. So, can multinational corporations receive funding?
Yeah, so from an NGen perspective, multinationals certainly can apply for funding, but as I'd mentioned in the presentation, at least one partner in the consortia needs to be a small medium enterprise. And we recognize that often these multinationals are the decision makers in these kind of integrated supply chains. So we want SMEs to be paired up with these multinationals to ensure that path to market is there.
Thank you, Arthur. From an OVEN perspective, the R&D Partnership Fund perspective, it's only open to SMEs to apply. So the M&E would not be receiving the funding, but M&Es would come into the capacity where they can come in as primary partner. And there might be an opportunity for them to contribute to the project and get something back. And that at that point, that would be a case-to-case basis to see if they're based out of Ontario. But what we want to see is that the primary partner is is committed towards the project itself, right? Another program which the MNEs can leverage to get funding from us would be the Talent Edge program, which is open to SMEs and MNEs identically, and that's an opportunity for MNEs to use their funding to hire talent to do STEM-related research in their organization.
Thanks, John, and thanks, Arthur. Just to clarify, John, so what you're saying is the primary partner does not have to be in Ontario.
The primary partner does not need to be in Ontario. We do not have any restriction for the primary partner to be within Ontario. It is a bonus point to have them in Ontario, because if they are in Ontario, the contributions they do towards the project can become accounted towards the project budget. But if they are not, then any contribution that they do towards the project, whether it's manpower, resources, even though it's relevant to the project, will not be accounted towards the project budget. So that's the key piece to keep in mind when having a primary partner who could be based out of Ontario.
All right, thank you, John, and thank you, Arthur. We are out of time. We ran a little bit over, so apologies for that. But I just want to wrap up quickly by a few thank yous. I want to thank the people in the organizations that are listed on this slide. I want to thank Don Lavisa, Andrew Scoos, Chris Gillis, Jennifer Alsop, Sherry Coburn, John George, and Arthur Kong for participating here today. I would like to mention, it was already mentioned, so I won't belabor the point, collaboration. I think that today's event is a demonstration of the power of collaboration. And this region is, I think, an exemplary example of collaboration. The region is collaborating very, very well, and the results speak for themselves. Thank you to the Invest Durham team that are not here with us today, but I think many are watching online, so thanks for the support of putting on this event. Special thanks to Don Lavisa once again, who has just recently left. I want to call out Dennis Croft and his team, Dennis and Marie, Andrew, and Calvin, and the rest of the entire team here and the crew for putting on such an amazing event. Well done, guys. I think this is the first time you've turned this studio into an event space, and I think the future is bright for this type of activity in this facility. Finally, thank you to all of you in the audience who joined us here today, and thank you to all of you online for tuning in. We look forward to doing this again and hoping this EVIQ event becomes an ongoing series. So stay tuned for more to come. Thank you.